Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the lefts, we go up to the rights, we go up to the middle of independence, we go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything, and you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion, and that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on, it's gonna be fun.
All right, guys, today's date, December the 8th, 2022, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, How the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. Before we do get started, guys, let you know that even though we are a news podcast, we do try to watch our language. Sometimes words do fly. At the same time, there may be things that might be shown that might be too intense for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Now, with that being said, guys, where do we go from here on this? Depending on where you are in the U.S., either a wet or cold, but I'm pretty sure one of those two kind of Wednesdays. Well, we actually have some good news. Thankfully, because for a second, I thought Georgia was going to let us down.
I'll project that Senator Raphael Warnock will reclaim his seat there. He is the projected winner with 94% of the vote in. Of course, this has been going neck and neck all night long, but we do want to go to Rachel Scott, our congressional correspondent, who's been at Raphael Warnock's headquarters all night, where they've been prepared and acting as if there was a party and reason to celebrate. Now it appears that they have it, Rachel.
They do, Lindsay, and just take a listen to his supporters tonight. They just got the news that Senator Raphael Warnock is the projected winner in this race, able to hang on to his seat and his second runoff. This is a celebration right here in Atlanta tonight. As you know, this was a very hard-fought campaign full of twists and turns, surprises, allegations against his rival, Republican Herschel Walker, of domestic abuse, allegations that he paid for a woman's abortion, which he denies. And Senator Raphael Warnock, in the final stretch, said this all comes down to two things: character and competence. He said that is what was on the ballot. This was also a race that Georgia voters knew that they had the last word. They wanted their voices to be heard, and they turned out in record numbers. More than 1.8 million voting early, and then these early numbers coming in tonight of people voting in person, surpassing record numbers for a midterm runoff election tonight. This win goes to the Democratic Party, and I got to tell you that this is definitely going to be a gut punch for Republicans. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell told me just days ago that this was an opportunity for Republicans to get it right. Well, tonight, their candidate, Republican Herschel Walker, is projected to be defeated in this race, Lindsay.
Yeah, very significant there, especially considering that it was so close. But I've been kind of following the soundtrack throughout the night. Of course, they're playing now All I Do Is Win, Win, Win. Put your hands in the air and let them stay there. I think that's the most appropriate, right, for the Warnock headquarters at this point. Thank you so much, Rachel. And let's go back to political director Rick Klein. Rick, it's been super close, nail biter, neck and neck, all those different analogies that you can throw out there to describe something that's extremely tight. But now we do have a projected winner.
Yeah, and Lindsay, it is an anatomy of a kind of victory that a Democrat needs these days. You're looking at these key Atlanta suburbs that we were talking about all night long. This is how Raphael Warnock did last time around, and in every one of these major counties, he did better this time. 79% in Fulton County, which is the biggest county in the state. 91% in DeKalb County, which is also in Atlanta. In Gwinnett, we're talking about 62% of the vote, and walking away from Cobb County with 59% of the vote. Now, Raphael Warnock was able to put up these big numbers. Herschel Walker held his own in some of the more red suburbs and in a lot of rural areas. This is why it doesn't look like it's an absolute blowout. The bottom did not fall out for Republicans, but Democrats did what they needed to do. They built up that big edge in early vote. They held on to it, and it looks like you're talking about a victory of a couple of percentage points after a first round of voting where Raphael Warnock was up by about a little less than 1%.
All right, Rick Klein, our thanks to you for your analysis all night long.
Okay, so let's just stop it there. Reason being, and I say reason being, yes, Raphael Warnock, again for the, I guess you can call it the second time. It feels like we've kind of been doing this a lot. Yes, the last election that happened for the midterms did have to go to a special runoff because by the state of Georgia you had to have at least 50,000 votes to be considered nominated. Of course, the first time it did not happen, and now because of yesterday, Senator Raphael Warnock is now again the elected senator for the state of Georgia for the next 6 years. Now, it is amazing when they showed and I want to get back to this as soon as humanly possible because I really want to show this to you guys again, was what they really showed you was the actual political voting for the state, which I'm going to bring back up for a second. Now, you see guys right there. Of course, voted conservative. The blue spots voted Democrat. And of course, the blue spots were more of the more congested areas, while the red areas were more the rural areas. Now, again, it is amazing to me when you look at this that Warnock got 49% of the vote for the state of Georgia, and Herschel Walker damn near almost got 49% himself, 48%, but damn near got it. And it is so scary because I sat there and I told you guys, I was like, and I even said on my Facebook post, I said, Georgia, you had one job and one job alone. Please do not put the poster child for CTE and just outright lying. Don't make him a senator. He's not for people. He is for, ever since Herschel Walker was in football, he just did what the white man told him to do. I know that does not sound very newsy, but honestly, that's the truth. Herschel Walker, since people realized he could play sports, has done everything the white man has told him to do, even run for office. In fact, the Herschel Walker's residence was in Texas, but moved to Georgia in order to run. Yes, I cannot make this up, as it was brought up before the special election that he claimed a residency in Texas because he was getting a special tax rebate. It's almost that you can't make this up. Even in his concession speech, the man was still clocked for lying.
No, I'm always going to give thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And also I'm going to acknowledge my wife, Julie, because she's with me and she's been through a tough time. But I want to say that I want to thank all of you as well, because we've had a tough journey, have we not? But one of the things I said is when they called the race, I said the numbers doesn't look like they're going to add up. But one of the things I want to tell all of you is you never stop dreaming. I don't want any of you to stop dreaming. I don't want any of you to stop believing in America. I want you to believe in America and continue to believe in the Constitution and believe in our elected officials most of all. Continue to pray for them, because all the prayers you've given me, I felt those prayers. I want to thank all my team as well, Team Herschel, because they put up with a lot. I want to thank Team Herschel. Thank all my donors as well, because you guys, without you, I couldn't have done what I've done. So I want to thank all of you as well, because there's no excuses in life. And I'm not going to make any excuses now, because we put up one heck of a fight. And I said, that's what we got to do, because this is much bigger. This is much bigger than Herschel Walker. And I told someone this the other day. I said, you guys, I've done a lot of stuff. You talk about Heisman Trophy, you talk about all the athletic awards, business awards I won. But the best thing I've ever done in my whole entire life is run for the Senate seat right here. And the reason I'm going to say that is I got a chance to meet all you and to hear what you guys feel about this country. And I got a chance for you guys to tell me what you do feel about this country. I got a chance to go into your homes, got a chance that you invested in Herschel Walker. And I thank you. And I thank you so much. And as I said, we can't blame no one. because I want you to continue to believe in this country, believe in our elected officials, and most of all, stay together. Don't let anyone separate you. Don't let anyone tell you that we can't, because I'm here to tell you we can. And I'm here to tell you we can. And as I said early on, God is good, and He's a good God all the time. He's a good God. So I want to say, I'm never going to stop fighting for Georgia. I'm never going to stop fighting for you because you're my family. Because I always, I'm a winner. Hey, we all winners. So we're all winners. And that's what I want to say. We're all winners. And I want to say, God is a good God. God bless you guys. And let me tell you, stay together. Continue to believe in our elected official. Always, always cast your vote, no matter whatever is happening. Cast your vote for all that. In God we trust. I do. In God we trust. Continue to cast your vote. Never, never, never give up. All right. God bless you guys. Thank you guys. Now, thank you.
Oh, I can't tell you this position. This was me the whole time he's talking. This is me. Because number one, it is amazing to me how Herschel Walker can sit there and say, well, no, it's nobody's fault. Yes, it is yours. And leave it to the GOP. The GOP does this so well. God's guns and country. That's all you need. As long as you cap off those three things as a conservative, they eat it up. Conservatives eat that mess up like apple pie if apple pie was covered in horse shit. They do. God's guns and country. Oh, we thank God. I felt your prayers. What are you, Hulk Hogan? Let me tell you something, brother. And you just got to keep saying your prayers and eating your vitamins, and you're going to grow up big and strong like the Hulkster. No, you don't. The whole idea of Herschel Walker was a failure because the GOP did the one thing that they said about Barack Obama when he first ran for president so long ago as a senator. They sat there and said, well, not in so many words, but the GOP believed that, hey, if we put a black person out there in front of the spotlight, black people will vote for him for he's black. These are the same people that turned around decades ago that sat there and said, we're only voting for black people only vote for Barack Obama because he's black. Decades later, let's try that. Again, Herschel Walker, a Texas transplant who still has a residency in Texas, moved to Georgia because the GOP saw an opportunity, or as I like to call it, failed experiment in the thousands by now, because it is amazing. Herschel Walker has never said anything that he would do as a senator. He pointed out all the political talking points that every Republican has said this side of Newsmax and Fox News. He has repeated it verbatim, but said nothing different. Even in his debates were worse than Trump. If you really want to be honest, Trump kind of did a little bit better than Herschel Walker did. And that's saying a lot. The bar is incredibly limbo low, and somehow Herschel Walker still managed to CT his way into the bar. And it amazes me so that even with everything that's going on, even with the, lying about his successful businesses, which nobody can't find, lying about graduating first of his top class at the University of Georgia, which he didn't, lying about being a law enforcement officer, which we come to find out was an honorary badge. It meant nothing. And then denying the abortion cases where multiple women have came forward and said, yes, he pressured me into getting abortions, after he himself took the GOP stance on abortion, saying we're going to protect life. Now, with all of that being said, it amazes me that this man got 48% of the vote in Georgia. With all that being said, he still almost, and that's why I said Georgia, you had one job. And you did it. You barely did it, but you did it. And let this be a lesson to a lot of people. Never say your vote doesn't count. If anything we've learned from just the special election in Georgia, every vote counted. every vote counted. Every vote. So when someone says that your vote doesn't count, use this as a case file. We came that close to getting an idiot for a senator. And just by calling Herschel Walker an idiot is an insult to other idiots. But his concession speech was nothing more than a GOP love letter. Have faith. Don't let this tear us apart. Because anybody who votes for Herschel Walker, in my opinion, maybe need to be checked for CTE as well. Because what other reason do you have to vote for someone who has literally told you nothing except smiled in your face, pointed out everything that Fox News told you about, and then sat there and asked for your vote? You have to be brain dead in some type of way. But moving right along, guys, there is other news as well. Because, like I said, as we get close to the holidays, or I should say, the Christian disguised paganism. Well, we did get some news. It seems that 2 of Trump's organizations have been found guilty. Never thought I'd say that because I did not have that on my bingo card of 2022.
Tonight, 2 entities of the Trump Organization, the Trump Corporation, and the Trump Payroll Corporation found guilty of criminal tax fraud, convicted on all 17 counts, including tax fraud, falsifying business records, and conspiracy.
That is consequential. It underscores that in Manhattan, we have one standard of justice for all.
Trump was not charged, and the defense said he did not know, but prosecutors say he signed off on parts of the scheme, initialing memos like this one that prosecutors believe were intended to cheat tax officials. Experts say the verdict could make his second bid for the presidency more challenging. Prosecutors saying in closing arguments that the former president was not blissfully ignorant. Prosecutors said that for 15 years, executives at the Trump org leaned on the company to evade income taxes on rent, private school tuition, and luxury cars, and unveiled tax returns that showed massive losses, including nearly $1 billion in operating losses over a 2-year period while Trump starred on reality TV and as he was campaigning for president. A Trump Organization spokesperson reacted to the guilty verdict, saying the notion that a company could be held responsible for an employee's actions to benefit themselves on their own personal tax returns is simply preposterous.
It will certainly be appealing, of course.
Felony convictions carry fines totaling up to $1.7 million. Zoreen Shah, ABC News.
Okay, so let's think about that for a second. That, yes, 2 of Trump's organizations were found guilty of defrauding taxes and, of course, financial records. But here's the killer part out of all this. That as soon as you heard, and I guess if you're like me, this isn't the not surprising category. Historically, every one of Trump's businesses has always been surrounded in losses, bankruptcy, and questionable business practices. I mean, come on now. Trump Airlines, Trump Steaks, Trump Wine, Trump University. Go down the list. Every failed business venture this man had has all the earmarkings of fraud on it. And now 2 of his organizations, one attached to payroll, by the way, found guilty of fraud. And what amazes me so is that in the world of business, why is this always the penalty? The penalty is, if found, they could face up to $1.7 million in fines. And I've always wondered this. Why in a business does a business not get treated like a person? I mean, in a way, businesses get all the benefits, caveats, and things of that nature, tax breaks, especially if Trump can write off $1 billion in 2 years. If his organization can write off $1 billion in losses, which means that's $1 billion they do not have to pay on taxes to the government. How in the world, when they've been caught red-handed over 17 counts between 2 of these companies, that the most that they'll probably face is a $1.7 million fine? Now, I understand that this also will be seen as a felony charge. And for a lot of businesses, if a felony charge is attached to said business, this may prevent possible funding, buyouts, things of that nature, because you're basically nuclear. Nobody's going to go near you. But there has to be some accountability. there has to be some jail time. I mean, remember the Enron guys? Of course, if you're my age, if you remember Enron got caught in a massive fraud scheme. Some of the actual senior leadership actually got jail time. I can't think since Enron when the last time, outside of schemers like Bernie Madoff, have you ever seen someone take jail time? Now, of course, the other billion-dollar question is, where does Trump fit in all this? Because much like the Mueller investigation of old, we're all asking the same question. I mean, even Mueller, despite him being hamstringed, despite him only being able to answer some questions, even the Mueller report said that Trump had to know. And you're going to sit there and tell me that within his own organization, he wasn't aware of what's going on? Nobody's that insulated. But it will remain to be determined because, as I said, as the Trump spokesman said, we're going to appeal. I don't know how this is, to sit there and say that we write these off for tuition and payments and bonuses. That's just absurd. And yet, that's the standard business practice. We'll find out, especially since Trump again is under massive lawsuits. Especially just to add on to that pile, the January 6th Commission did something also that could be considered a Christmas present, but maybe bad for Trump and other GOPs that signed on to a certain failed coup d'etat early this year.
Also news tonight from the January 6th committee, the chair of the committee indicating today that they will issue criminal referrals to the Justice Department. What he then said, though, a short time later and tonight, is there any indication who would be targeted if there are, in fact, these criminal referrals? Here's our chief Washington correspondent, Jonathan Karl, tonight.
Today, January 6th, Chairman Benny Thompson said his committee would recommend the Justice Department pursue criminal prosecutions based on evidence uncovered during the committee's investigation. Chairman Thompson later said no final decisions had been made about who the committee would recommend be prosecuted or for what crimes. The DOJ already has a sprawling criminal investigation underway. And today, Congress recognized the bravery and sacrifice of the officers who defended the Capitol with its highest honor, the Congressional Gold Medal.
We thank those heroes for their service and sacrifice.
The two top Republicans in Congress also paid tribute.
These brave men and women in uniform stood strong in the line of duty for our country, and we're forever grateful for that.
When an unhinged mob tried to come between the Congress and our constitutional duty, the Capitol Police fought to defend not just this institution, but our system of self-government.
But some of the officers, as well as the family of Officer Brian Sicknick, who was attacked by pro-Trump rioters on January 6th and died the following day, made a point of declining to acknowledge the Republican leaders, ignoring Mitch McConnell's outstretched hand and walking silently by Kevin McCarthy, who held the medal in a box. Sicknick's mother later said the snub was intentional, calling the Republican leaders two-faced for praising the police officers, but also failing to hold Donald Trump accountable for what happened.
We don't know exactly when the January 6th committee would make its criminal referrals, but we do know this: it has to be soon, because this committee ceases to exist when Republicans take over Congress on January 3rd.
Yeah, pretty much. As we've seen from the results of the midterms, the House will turn over to Republican majorities. So that means that the current Congress, the current 117 Congress, will need to wrap up whatever it is they got to do before the month of December is over and before January, when the 118th Congress is being sworn in. So yes, they had to wrap it up. They couldn't extend any longer. But the fact that they are referring criminal charges to the Department of Justice screams a lot. The fact of not saying any names, I'm like, well, we kind of figure, who else would it be? Everybody associated. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Josh Hawley, even Trump's biggest cheerleader, Lindsey Graham, possibly that Ted Cruz. Wouldn't be surprised if it's him. Wouldn't be surprised if he brought in too. Keep in mind, there were a lot of GOP that rode the Trump train, that riled up those would-be domestic terrorists. So who's not to say that the January 6th committee will not be referring criminal charges to the entire head? Let's just complete the ensemble. That's all I'm saying. But again, they're running on limited time, considering that will actually no longer, as the journalist said, will cease to exist come January of 2023. Now, it is a great thing that the Capitol police officers, especially the fallen ones, were honored. I don't blame those people at all. I go one further just because I have a petty side. If Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy were sitting right there to shake my hand, whether I am a Capitol police officer or the family member of a fallen Capitol police officer, I would have been giving them the one finger salute as I've been passing by. Or we're just gonna half bake. F you, you cool, I'm out. Just saying. Because it amazes me the unmitigated gall that you have to have. Because you may have, don't get me wrong, Kevin McCarthy may have not went out when Trump was trying to get those rioters, he was trying to get his domestic terrorist coup people, his cult, was trying to get them to go storm the Senate. Now admittedly, Kevin McCarthy wasn't out there. He was in the federal office building. Mitch McConnell wasn't out there. He was in the Senate. But Josh Hawley took a second to, show solidarity. And yet he was the first one running when they stormed the Cap. When they stormed inside, he was the first one running. Marjorie Taylor Greene was doing the same thing. And to sit there in front of Capitol officers that are being honored for their bravery at that time, and you have the unmitigated gall to sit there and want to shake the hands of those officers or the family members of those officers, you are truly a special kind of caca. There's just no way I can put that. I could, but I'm trying to limit the profanity. But yes, you got to be a special kind of caca. But again, with the January 6th committee, we're going to see, because I want to see some names. I want to see to where it's going to come down to the point like we are going to specifically point these people out. And hopefully, like I said before, what could they be charged with? Treason, just off the top of my head. That would be the one I would go with. But again, we will see. But going right along, guys, this is another reason why I say police reform is needed, because only an officer would think by flashing their badge would you get a pass. And in this case, they forgot that policemen wear body cameras now.
Good. I'm Deputy Chief of the Sheriff's Office. Stopped you because you driving tag or unregistered vehicle with no tag on it.
Is your camera on?
It is.
I'm the police chief in Tampa.
Oh, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Okay.
I'm hoping that you'll just let us go tonight.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll say you. Not to say you look familiar, so.
Yeah, I'm sure I do.
Okay. So, all right, folks. Well, have a good night. Staying over here in East Lake Woodlands?
We live in East Lake Woodlands.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, it's nice to meet you. So, I'm Deputy Jacoby.
Okay. Same here, my friend.
All right.
Take care of yourself.
All right.
Sorry
Take care.
to bother you.
All right. No worries. No worries. Like I say, we have a lot of problem with the golf carting around here. Everybody gets out.
We don't normally come out.
We never
the club
come
was
out.
closed,
We
so we saw we
never,
went out to the Greek place to get some food.
All right, then we'll take care. And it was nice meeting you.
All right.
Oh, all right.
You ever need anything, call me.
Okay.
Serious.
All right. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. You're welcome. So
Thank you for your service.
thank you for yours.
Thank you.
So take care.
The unmitigated gall. Well, that police chief in Tampa that was caught on camera, Mary O'Connor, resigned. Gee, I wonder why. Because you basically flashed your badge to get out of a ticket and got caught doing it. And even more so, handed your card to another deputy that said, hey, if you have any problems, let me know. Seriously. Just there, and yet police, and we just got through talking about, not just off the top, I'm sorry, that's the wrong choice of words. Just last week, we talked about a story where police officers or law enforcement around the country are having a hard time with enrollments. People signing up to be law enforcement officers, that the numbers are dropping. And they talk about, the long hours, the public perception. The public perception was the big thing they handed off. The public perception, how our actions, our split-second decisions will get mulled over for months and months. And if you kill a black person, well, that's basically the end of your life. Yeah. To sum it up, to paraphrasing, that's how they sounded. Well, in that case, they forget public perception sees everything. Number one, I understand that in some places in Florida and also some places in Tennessee, you'll see a lot of golf carting. It's got to be a Mayo thing because I don't freaking understand it. But when you're caught and you're pulled over, the first thing you do is like, oh, I'm a police chief in Tampa. But the dummy sat there and said, is your body cam on right now? Yeah. Oh, well, here's my license and registration, sir. You basically touted your title, knew it came with a little bit of swag, and said, hey, I'm hoping you'll let us go. I'm the chief of police. What's the deputy supposed to do? As far as he's concerned, he's outranked. Oh, well, because you know the deputy probably got some flack for that. You had to. But I can kind of understand. If the chief police is right there and the deputy is right there, it's like, do I give the chief of police a ticket? Because I feel like it's going to come back to haunt me. And I guarantee that went through the deputy's mind. Because if he did give a ticket to that guy, who I guess is the husband of the chief of police, you don't think that's going to come back to haunt him? Retaliation is real. Especially when it comes to the boys in blue. The retaliation is real with them. But again, they wonder why others like myself are out there screaming police reform. It is so very, very, very needed. And that is a shining example of it. Moving along, guys, we did want to cover businesses as the needs to go electrical is definitely going out. And of course, the Darth Vader of electrical commerce, Amazon, is the first one to do it. But we're actually seeing that not just Amazon, but a lot of other companies are starting to make the switch from dinosaur juice to electricity.
Early morning in Baltimore, and Amazon driver Brandy Monroe has lucked out again.
It's different, but I love it.
Assigned to one of the all-electric high-tech delivery vans rather than a traditional gas-powered truck.
The biggest difference, definitely the tablet in the middle.
The tablet?
Yes.
And that essentially is like a big Tesla.
Basically, yes, a bigger Tesla.
Amazon is pledging to be net carbon zero by 2040. Thousands of these custom-built Rivian vans are already driving in and out of neighborhoods, delivering packages in 100 cities nationwide.
So this is the full 360 view of the vehicle, the front, back, and both sides.
The electric's easily recognizable by the LED lights and the light blue trim around the rear door. Amazon is starting with their last mile delivery vans. Eventually, they want to expand across much of the fleet.
We think that electric vehicles are a great solution that is a win all around. It's a win for the planet, it's a win for customers, and it's a win for the business.
FedEx and UPS are also adding EVs. And amid volatile fuel prices, electric semis. Tesla just delivered its first 18-wheeler last week, while New York's Manhattan beer distributors already drive electric Volvos, up to 250 miles and 10 hours on a single charge. And it's quiet. Just listen. There's no engine noise. It's almost like driving a golf cart. Joshua Santiago has been a trucker for 35 years. How does this truck compare to your old truck? Is this as powerful?
Oh, this is more powerful.
More powerful?
Way more powerful, quicker, more quieter, and best of all, it's clean air.
Solar panels provide the overnight charge, and without a gas and oil engine, fewer breakdowns.
What we know is that we are saving money on maintenance. They are much more efficient, and so far, they've been very reliable.
Government subsidies help offset the investment as New York, California, and Washington move to phase out sales of gas and diesel vehicles by 2035. For now, the heavy batteries only allow for short-haul, lighter loads rather than big cross-country runs, as more of America's big brands.
I don't want to go back to diesel. Electric's the way.
Choose green. Tom Costello, NBC News.
I'm not gonna lie. I kind of want old boy's deep voice. Man, I never want to go back to diesel. Man, I never want to go back. Electric is good. I'm sorry. It just threw me off. I was thinking about Key and Peele squid. It goes Queen Boom Blade sweet and slow. Could you imagine with a voice like that? Real quick. Just sitting there. Hey, y'all do. Welcome to How the Frack got here. Yeah, I kind of like that. No, I cannot do that. Okay. Anyway, going green. Nothing wrong with that. It is the move. It really is the move. I like the fact that we are getting up dinosaur juice because, as you can see, energy prices are going. I mean, energy costs, as far as crude oil, as far as refineries, things of that nature, it is all driving the price up. And of course, they're passing on the cost of those cost of that onto consumers. But I have been saying this. We should have been doing this honestly since we should have actually turned, or at least start to turn the wheel at least by 2005. I mean, by 2005, imagine if we really did start making the push to electric in 2005, and we fast forward to 2022, how far we've come. And I think it's only because we're finally going to, I think for a lot of corporations, companies are out there going to accept that electric vehicles are going to be done. If only we would also invest in a mass transit railway system that goes from the East Coast to the West Coast to actually help with the offset of flights and things of that nature, that can also transport things from one side of the ocean, from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. If only we would also invest in that. Imagine what kind of first world we'd actually be. But again, I'm not bad about Amazon and other companies doing this because that is the way. The only downside is it's now because we are starting to see electric vehicles hit the market outside of Tesla. But let's kind of be honest, those electrical vehicles are anywhere between currently $60,000 to $70,000 and up. So especially if you're trying to get like a Ford F-150 Lightning, or you're trying to get a GMC AT4, or if you're trying to get a Volvo electric, and Cadillac and Jeep and even Dodge, which again, my dream is to always own at least one Hellcat. I also want a Charger and a Challenger, but that's neither here nor there. Everybody's eventually going to go to electric, but the problem is for the actual society to accept electric vehicles. Number one, there needs to be a change in having more charging stations around. Number two, electric vehicles have to be more affordable, because I don't think they've noticed everything has gone up but your paycheck. That's all I'm saying. But again, it's still a great thing to finally see that we actually might go green, and we might actually beat the caseless climate change. Might, because right now that's a ticking time clock. But anyway, moving right along, guys. You remember, I know this is going to seem very old as all get out, but do y'all remember when baby formula shortages scared people? Yeah, it was only a couple of months ago. Well, they decided to do a report on this, and it pretty much confirmed everything that we knew, and the reason why monopolies have to honestly be prevented to avoid situations like this.
American families still struggling to find baby formula for their infants. A report out tonight is highly critical of the FDA's response to the crisis. Priscilla Thompson has details.
Tonight, a scathing new report criticizing the FDA's food program for a culture of indecisiveness and inaction in a department perceived to be in constant turmoil. The report, conducted by an independent panel, comes after months of fallout over the infant formula crisis that left stores struggling to stock shelves and parents desperate to feed their babies.
This is really scary.
In February, Abbott, the nation's largest formula maker, shut down its Michigan plant after 4 babies were hospitalized and 2 died from bacterial infections after drinking formula made there. The company says there's no evidence its formula made the baby sick, but voluntarily recalled several formula brands, prompting a nationwide shortage. Today's report found that a disconnect between complaint reporting systems delayed the FDA's response to the outbreak.
When you began to hear the reports about kids getting these bacterial infections, being hospitalized, some dying, what went through your mind?
I was pissed. I was angry.
The crisis brought back painful memories for Riley San Miguel.
They removed all of this brain.
At barely a month old, her son Crew, now 3, almost died when a bacterial infection seeped into his spinal fluid and spread to his brain.
Did you have any idea how he'd gotten that infection?
No one ever said that it came from his infant formula, but Crew is not good, consuming anything else.
The FDA says the report's findings will inform a new vision for its food program. The report now urging the FDA to require formula makers provide real-time results of microbiological testing and use its mandatory recall authority more often. With the baby formula crisis expected through spring, many parents are still struggling.
What would your message to regulators be?
Do better, be better, work harder for these babies.
Priscilla Thompson.
Yeah, crazy, isn't it? That for a lot of baby formula makers, they have to follow the FDA. Now I know for a lot of people that the FDA is not the most trustworthy, because if you think about it, the FDA has actually allowed certain preservatives and things of that nature that are banned in other countries but allowed here in the US. And that alone screams a lot. But also with the fact that there is such a monopoly on baby formula, because if you guys don't remember, there was literally one company in the U.S. that was making several different versions of baby formula. That actual facility went down, and when it went down, people panicked. And of course, when you hear of a shortage, what do most folks do? Go to stores, buy as much as they can. Scalpers buy as much as they can. Sell it for twice or three times the amount, three times the actual price of it, and make money. But that's just a part of the problem. The other part, just as in the news article, was how they notified the FDA that there may be an issue, or how they're doing actual testing or studying. So again, I could blame the FDA. I mean, I could blame the FDA, but let's be honest, federal entities that aren't the Army will not be getting the personnel, resources, or actual funding to do their jobs. If anything, more gets taken from them, while the Pentagon gets a blank check every year, even though they failed every audit since Reagan. Just pointing that out. But moving right along, guys, there is another trial that's going out, and that's the trial of the trial of fallen individual Atelia Jefferson, as a witness is taking the stand against the former officer who shot and killed her.
Now, with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been watching, the prosecution in a Texas courtroom today saying the shooting of Tatiana Jefferson back in 2019 at the hands of a then police officer was absolutely intentional and an unjustifiable act that should have never happened. Erin Dean is on trial for shooting Jefferson through a window of her own home. Dean has pleaded not guilty to the murder charge. His lawyers say this case is about fact, not emotion. Zincle Esamoah has more.
How did she pull the gun out of her purse?
She looked at her purse, and then when she looked at it, she got it and just had it next to her.
Today, the long-awaited murder trial begins for Erin Dean, the white former police officer who fatally shot and killed a black woman, Tatiana Jefferson, in her family's Texas home. The incident started as a non-emergency call to police. The front door of Jefferson's home was open, according to police. Body camera video showing the officer, Erin Dean, approaching the front door of the home on October 12, 2019, then walking around the side of the home. In the body cam video, Dean shouts at Jefferson to show her hands, moments before fatally shooting the 28-year-old through the rear window of the home with a single bullet.
Put your hands up, show me your hands.
Dean is not heard identifying himself as police. Police say Jefferson was playing video games with her then 8-year-old nephew, who, according to police record, said his aunt pulled out a gun after hearing noises behind the house. It is unclear, based on police records, if Dean knew Jefferson was armed. The shooting sparked widespread outrage and a speedy response from the Fort Worth, Texas Police Department. They promptly released the body cam video. Dean quit and was charged with murder and non-negligent manslaughter just 2 days after the shooting. He pled not guilty and went free on $200,000 bond.
How usual or unusual is it for a police department to respond to a fatal police shooting like this?
Most of the time, police departments will take their time investigating before they take disciplinary action.
But that pace slowed. In contrast, George Floyd, the black man killed by a white officer in 2020, was killed 7 months after Jefferson. And that former officer, Derek Chauvin, went on trial and was convicted over a year and a half ago. Dean's trial is just starting.
It took 3 years for this trial to begin. What do you think factored into the delays?
We shouldn't be that surprised that the trial took this long to happen because we're still in the tail end of COVID. And while the pandemic may be over, the courthouse backups are not over.
Reportedly, trial delays were due to the pandemic, appeals, and recurring illness from Dean's team, according to the Associated Press. Dean's attorney died the same week as jury selection. Dean's team did not immediately respond for comment. The family of Tatiana Jefferson says, in part, they are relieved that it's going forward, but they are extremely anxious during this process.
In a case like this, ultimately, it's going to be what a reasonable officer would have done in the same position and what information was known to that officer in that moment.
Zinkley is joining us now. Zinkley, we heard there from Jefferson's now 11-year-old nephew who talked about the moments leading up to her getting shot. He was specifically asked about his aunt's gun, which has been controversial here, yeah?
Yeah, Hallie, that's right. And his testimony was really moving today, right? A bit sobering even to see someone so small in that seat. And he was asked about the gun, which has been controversial because critics felt it was centering Tatiana Jefferson's gun and an attempt to blame her for the incident when they say she's the victim in this case, attempting to exercise her right to bear arms on her own private property. Now, law enforcement say they were bringing up the gun because they needed to be thorough and needed to give the judge all of the information. We also heard that 11-year-old who you see on your screen talk about the moments after she was shot, saying it felt like a dream and that she was shaking and crying. Hallie.
The makeup of the jury in cases like these sometimes gets some scrutiny here. What's the case here?
Yeah, and it's no different in this case, especially because this is yet another case about a white police officer fatally shooting a black person. And so the makeup of the jury is always subject to a lot of attention. We saw Dean's team appeal the location of this case. Those appeals were largely overturned. And the AP reports the makeup of this jury. It is a 12-person jury, and there are 8 men, 6 women, and none appear to be black. Hallie.
Says a lot, doesn't it? That last part. Yes, Tatiana Jefferson, the woman who was just playing video games, was shot through the window. And of course, the trial being backed up due to COVID is now being done. But what's the jury pool? Not one black person. Do we even need to say how messed up this is? That it's amazing that, when it's a black person, black people don't get an all black jury. If a black person kills a white person, or better yet, kills another black person, do we get an all-black jury? No. But yet, when a white person, and whether it's law enforcement or not, it never seems like they never face a jury of their own. I mean, the whole thing about when you're on trial, you're facing a jury of your own peers. I think they meant to say ethnic-wise, but we'll follow that story as it goes along because, again, it's amazing. What's amazing, like I keep saying, when it comes to these things, that this is the defense attorney. The defense attorneys for these individuals, the first thing they always try to do is character assassination. That never changes. They try to do that with George Floyd. They try to do that with Trayvon Martin. They try to do that with Philando Castile. They tried with everyone. This is their go. This is not just attacking black people. This is defense lawyership 101. Character assassination. If you can instill enough to the jury that something about this person is the reason what led to their actions, you could possibly put in reasonable doubt. Every defense attorney does this, not surprised, even though it's not going to stick to anything. But we'll follow that case as it comes along. A couple of protests did happen over this week, and well, this is the problem I have with protests, because when you're protesting, sometimes I wonder what people protest about. And in this case, I'll start with the first one because there is no other way I can say this, but this is the reason why would-be militia playing soldier, paintball, airsoft people, not to knock those that play paintball, airsoft, you're not the guys I'm talking about. I'm talking about the idiots that take your gear and try to play soldier or think themselves Call of Duty just because they played the video game. Now all of a sudden they think they're Army. That being said, I want to start off with this story in Columbus, Ohio, where, again, they were going to do a Holly drag story time. Now, for all those who don't know, these are basically story times in which drag queens do come out and just read books to kids. I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great idea because we do need to have cultural sensitivity, and the only way we can teach it to kids as they're young so they don't turn into pricks later. That's usually how it works. But anyway, As there was going to be a parade of this in Columbus, Ohio, these Call of Duty gentlemen, also Proud Boys, decided to also protest, but protest being armed. Yes, they were having a local in a school where local drag queens read storybooks to kids to educate them, to get them to understand you have grown men playing army, heavily armed to protest. And fortunately, because of the growing escalation that the actual local drag queen storytime books was at storytime event was actually canceled because of these idiots. And I get it, because how many times, and guys, I say this all the time, how many times have we seen guys like this, heavily armed, body armor, and say they're protesting? Number one, if you come heavily armed in body armor to a protest, to protest something you don't like, you're not coming to protest. You're hoping something jumps off. You are looking for self-defense justification. If anything, you're trying to Kyle Rittenhouse this shit. That's what you're trying to do. And it's not surprising that these so-called men, or call themselves, well, we just want to make sure that they're not promoting, and this is the thing. And I said, this is what betwixt my biscuits. I don't care how you feel about this. And honestly, if you like me, this may change your opinion about me. There is this growing ideal that there is a message out there to try to turn young boys and girls and try to enroll them into the LGBTQ plus community like it's the X-Men. It's not. If anything, they are just simply teaching them that it's okay to be different. It is okay if if you're not like everybody else. It is okay to feel what you feel. It's okay. That's the entire thing. And of course, with Drag Queen Story Hour, it's teaching kids to read books. Now, I don't know if you had noticed lately, but a lot of kids tend to stick more to electronic devices than books. And I'm sorry, when you not read, education is affected. It's just like music. Kids who perform in musical programs, bands that much, always do better in school. Kids who work in wood shop, or work in metal shop, or work in auto mechanics, or work in robotics, or mathematics, or things of that nature that is outside school curriculum, they always do better. So imagine, just from a societal standpoint, if we include cultural sensitivity and learn that we taught kids to accept everybody, regardless of gender, pronoun, or however you want to be addressed. Imagine the type of world we grow up in, because we got a whole bunch of idiots who either are confused, hatred, pretty much hate everything, bigots, or just simply believe that there are people out there trying to twist young kids to basically be these deviants. And I've never understood that. Even more so that they will protest. And I said, that's so-called real men for you. You're going to protest a drag queen story hour event where kids are just coming to learn, to be encouraged to read, and you show up bodied, armored, and heavily weaponed to go. And I keep saying this all the time. If you want to play Army, go enlist. You want to play Army that bad? Go to your local Army recruiter and enlist. Go to your local National Guard and enlist. They will proudly send you to where the real action is, so you can get on your would-be Chuck Norris, Steven Seagal wet dream fantasy that you got going on in your head. Because you're basically scaring children. You truly are the terrorist. The other actual protest that was halted was actually in Kentucky. It was a protest because, if you guys don't remember about the Emmett Till story that actually broke earlier this year, that the accuser, Carolyn Bryan Doham, lives in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Protesters were planning a rally Saturday afternoon, of course, for a call to justice for Emmett Till. There was a story that went out that somewhere in an underground police department, there was actually a warrant that was being served to bring in the accuser at the time, Carol Bryant Donham, which again, if you guys remember from a previous podcast that we've done about this, that actual warrant was rescinded and no action followed. So, of course, protesters were going to plan a rally. Now, they were not planning to literally go to the woman's location and just raise all sorts of hell. They were literally just going to be in a certain area of Bowling Green that was not at her location. But again, you have those that were going to come out and protest against the protest. And again, I can understand from the police standpoint. It's better. The threat of violence just happened to be high there. And because it happened to be high there, it makes sense to send everybody home. Even though Emmett Till, a boy at the time, whose story has to be told. Because again, accused of doing something he never did by a person who is still alive and had admitted that he did not do it, and yet somehow will never see a day in court. I don't blame them for protesting. I think it should be done. But again, I understand the police on that point is to be erred on the side of caution, considering the fact how some rallies have went in recent events, and we're trying to avoid shootings or just destruction or just avoiding possible death at any cost. I get it. Moving right along, guys, I did want to cover this story because I don't know if you guys remember this, but do you guys remember when our former failure in chief, Donald Trump, cried out that we need to terminate the Constitution? Yeah, he sat there and he said that we need to terminate the Constitution. And you know what's so crazy about this? That people don't think it's real. It is real. Even on Truth Social. And again, this is still there. Because, Donald Trump, even though he's back on Twitter, but he still stays on Truth Social. I mean, you can see it there. So with the revelation of massive and widespread fraud and deception in closely working big tech companies, the DNC Democrat Party, did you throw the presidential results of 2020 out and declare the rightful winner, or do you have a new election? A massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for termination of all rules, regulations, articles, even those found in the Constitution. Our great founders did not want and would not condone false and fraudulent elections. Yes, even in 2022, Donald Trump is still saying that he is the rightful winner of the previous presidential election. But what is so crazy is that most Republicans haven't said shit. They haven't. I mean, it's funny that maybe a few of the low-level ones have, but McCarthy, quiet. McConnell, quiet. Graham, quiet. Hawley, quiet. Cruz, quiet. I can keep going down the list of all the name ones, but they've all been quiet. And I'm just trying to figure this out because I sat there and said a long time ago, guys, that when it really does come to the Republican Party, there's one thing they do very well, and that's toe the party line. Even though that your president just said the Constitution needs to be, your former failure in chief president said that the Constitution needs to be thrown out because he didn't win the election. Not one Republican has rebuked him. Not one top Republican. And it just makes me wonder why. Why? I mean, Trump at this point, with the news about his organizations, with the news that other documents have been recovered from Mar-a-Lago, keep in mind, he is fighting lawsuit after lawsuit after indictment after lawsuit. And then you're fighting the Department of Justice. You're fighting the New York Attorney General's office. You are fighting the IRS because now your tax returns are in the hands of the Ways and Means community. He is fighting so many lawsuits that if you're a lawyer for Trump, number one, I wonder how you're getting paid. And number two, your hours you must be able to send your kids to college alone off at least one case. But that being said, nobody has said anything. Nobody has ever came out and said there and told Trump, yeah, we don't agree with that. I wonder, it just makes, I mean, we all know why. Republicans like the mob. They don't turn on each other because if you turn on the mob, you get excommunicado. Happened to one person already. Happened to several people. Every person that ever voted to impeach Trump is no longer Republican and is no longer in office. That's just being honest. If you really look at the list of people that voted to impeach Trump, you'll notice None of them are in the Senate. None of them are in the House anymore. Why? Because he personally went after them for just going against him as if he's a dictator. Not surprising. But the last story we got, guys, again, is just a warning that's going to be a possible problem between the union workers and a pro-union president. Yep, because you guys remember Biden has now gotten to his desk a bill to where the House and Senate voted on to force union rail workers into a deal that they created to avoid a shutdown, because a shutdown at a railroad yard station where plenty of merchandise is being exported, imported into the country, if there was a strike there, that would lead to barren shelves, higher prices, and of course, loss of multiple profits. Biden and company stepped in about a few months ago and they actually erected a deal to basically get everybody to come back and continue working and to keep the lines moving. Now, that deal itself is in jeopardy because the unions came back and said, we would like to have paid sick leave. And of course, the companies that the unions are going against said, no, you don't get paid sick leave. And of course, this led to unions threatening to strike again. The companies are asking the government to step in. The government is sitting there saying, okay, we're going to basically create a bill to force these workers to go back to work. But you have good old Joe say, we're not giving up on this fight. Joe, that's not the best move you want to do, considering you call yourself pro-union. You call yourself a pro-union president, and you're forcing union workers to go back to work on a deal that your administration helped create. But when those same union people are saying, well, we want paid sick time. And it is a trivial, and I ask this question to business owners out there. What is it about paid sick time that just screams a no for you guys? I really want to know, because like most things, when you're working in employment, you get PTO, you may get 401k. The company may or may not match your donation to 401k. You may get health insurance that apparently you're paying a portion of. You may get profit sharing if it is available with said company. You may get bonuses if that's a part of your job description. But you don't. I mean, even now, there are some places that are actually starting to do paid maternity leave. Not all places, but some. But paid sick time. That's the part I've never understood. Every other country out there that is just as modern as ours has paid sick time. And yet we are the only country out here whose laws would look more third world in a first world country. But it's amazing that everything in this moment, especially with the holiday season come around, could possibly be halted because a company does not want to give paid sick leave to its workers and is forcing the government to force these workers to come back. That could come back to hurt Biden, especially if he's trying to work with a Republican-controlled House, a Senate that Democrats do have a majority in, but it is going to make things difficult, especially with his next the next presidential election. That clock is just starting, and right now, I'm going to be honest, it doesn't look that bright for him and Madam Vice President Kamala Harris, who in my mind hasn't really said a lot since she took office. But again, if I was Biden, might not want to call yourself pro-union if you're signing a bill that's forcing union workers to go back on work simply because of a deal your administration had hands on. Looks very conservative for a centrist president. That's all I'm saying. But moving right along, guys, we're going to go on to our feel-good segment, because usually on How the Frack We Got Here, we do cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom and sometimes make you lose your faith in humanity. But hey, it's the middle of the week. It is tomorrow. It's going to be Friday, which is Thursday. And we actually want to leave you guys out some good vibes. And I think this story will do it, because it's a story that I followed a while back. And I was always curious to see if this football team made it to the championships or how far they've gotten. And after they put a smile on my face.
Tonight here, we have been reporting on this team for quite some time now. We always knew they were champions. And tonight, they really are. Tonight, they are the young high school football team we've been reporting on for more than a year now. In Riverside, California, the California School for the Deaf, Riverside. The Cubs, proving yet again tonight they are America strong. For the first time in their school's 69-year history, the varsity team winning state championships. The victory parade, the signs, we're number one. Undefeated 12-0 Division I in California's southern section, the players, the coaches, all deaf, winning against teams that could hear. Warming up, running drills, jumping, rotating, their practices are silent. Members of the team signing, "Hello, David." And it's what they signed. Eno Zornoza signing, "Deaf people can do anything. We're not this stereotype that's out there." Running back Philip Castaneda telling us, "We can't hear. That doesn't mean we can't play. We're here to play, and we can." Wide receiver Jory Valencia saying, "We're showing the world we can play." And this was Jory at the winning game, the moment he helped carry the team to victory. Tonight, freshman player Gio Visco signing, "It doesn't make a difference what your disabilities are. We can still work with it." And their coach, Keith Adams, signing tonight, "It gives them hope. It gives them positivity to know that they can achieve higher things." Tonight, we celebrate the Cubs, the state champions, America strong.
I just thought that was pretty cool, just because that was a story that we did actually cover a year ago. Yeah, about the beginning of this year. Beginning of this year, we did cover that, and it's cool to actually see them win the state championship. Because I always said before, it's no matter you're doing it, and they are exactly right. No matter the type of situation you're in, whether you're disabled or not, you can still do great things. And again, I just thought that was pretty cool, especially because it's football. Let's be honest, football inspires people. It does. It inspires me to go deep voice again. I want to thank all y'all for calling in. Really appreciate you guys tuning in to How the Frack Got Here. Certainly appreciate it. This deep voice not working for me. It really is not. I apologize. But anyway, that's going to do for this podcast, guys. Thank you all for watching, for liking, for letting people know this is live. I certainly appreciate that. Some shameless plugging before we do get out of here, guys. I do always want to shout out my buddy Vaughn, Big BZA Dot on all socials. Definitely check him out. Check out his YouTube page, as he definitely got new beats up, especially his TikToks, because I love Vaughn. Strange dude, but I love him. But definitely check him out. Of course, myself, guys, I'm Black Fox 447 on mostly all socials. You can definitely like and follow me, as I usually post everything that I review, watch, and play, and some gem stuff, because I do a couple of push-ups. Also, the link at the bottom, guys, I'm going to make that just a wee bit bigger. You can take that link and post it in your browser. It'll take you to my link tree that has the YouTube and Facebook groups for all my podcasts, How the Frack Got Here, Get Bit, and of course, Alphone's podcast. Definitely like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think about the show. Did you like it? Didn't like it? Stories that you want us to look into or want us to cover? Again, reach out to me and let me know. I'd certainly appreciate that. Of course, my wish is at the end of 2022, of course, going into 2023, I just want more unity, more cooperation, more understanding, and honestly, more peace and love. That's all I ask. I sound like a John Lennon song, but yes, I do imagine a lot. That being said, guys, if you are going to be traveling, especially with the holiday season, and you're going to be going flying or driving or planes, trains, and automobiles, however you decide to do it, please take care of yourselves. Please wear a mask if need be. If you are sick, please stay home. We are still in a pandemic. Coronavirus and things of that nature are still out and proud. And again, COVID is not gone. It's just less talked about. But if you take care of yourselves and we take care of each other, and that's how we're going to get through this. The last thing I'm going to say, guys, about How the Frack Got Here, it's all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are simply trying to give you all the information and allow you to make up your own mind for yourself. But we do provide a logical, progressive perception outlook to go along with it. We try to be progressive, because when we move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past, but make a decision now that we should have done back then, like electing our first Black woman to the Supreme Court, electing our first Black woman to the Federal Board of Governors, electing our first Black 4-star military during armed forces. All great things. When we don't learn from history, we are doomed to repeat them. That's why we keep asking ourselves, why does everything go up but our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians but still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, how the Frack got here. Thank you for watching, guys. Take care of yourselves and each other. We will all get through this. Peace.